Hello, my friends. Thank you for coming to play with the ideas that I present, I offer to you from, I've been channeling for 4 decades. The very first long meditation that I was able to download was on happiness. And that was back in the mid 80s. Now, I'm sure you've all seen the cartoon where one of the characters in The Wizard of Oz, the Tin Man, is standing in a yoga class. And everyone else in the yoga class is doing a standing forward bend, kind of with their nose to their knees, kind of the way I felt in my first yoga class. And the thought bubble is, this is bullshit. So I really wanted to address any of you who think being happy is not our birthright. It's bullshit. Okay. Now, I couldn't believe this was the first piece of information that I was given because I had or let me just say, I gleaned a lot of trauma in my childhood because I was so sensitive and I was so tuned in to the distress and the pain and the chaos around me, the unhappiness of other people. And I sort of took that in. So I was sort of a gloomy person, except in nature. Nature was my happy place. So I did have a course correction about 2018 where they asked me to go back to this meditation and try to understand it because I didn't even really understand it. And I know that things like grief, imbalances in our brain or in our endocrine system, injuries, emotional trauma that's unresolved, threats to our survival, addiction, threats like that, of course, they have to be in the forefront of our minds until they're processed and we regain our equilibrium, so to speak, so that we can come into a state of happiness again. And I just want to say that right up front. Of course, there are situations of that kill happiness within our soul when we're not experiencing, but when we're not experiencing these life cataclysms, we still feel like we can't be happy because there's something morally wrong with being happy. A little example is, I mean, we can't be successful. We can't make money and be happy, right? I mean, people would think we're foolish, that we're a fool if we were going around being happy and trying to be successful at the same time, right? But we learn to be happy as children. And most of us are happy as children, especially if our parents tried to entice us to be happy with bright colors, shiny things, when they smiled at us, when they played with us, showing us their happiness. And also allowing children to play freely in nature if possible, allowing children to be creative and not just glued to screens, which does change the brain of young people. We're going to find that out at some point. But children can be helped to develop happiness in their life. And most of us do experience some happiness in our life. But then in our teenage years, we're not concerned with making anyone around us happy, right? Adolescence is such a self-centered time that many of us don't recover our happiness until we have children of our own to play with, and our children being happy rekindles our innate happiness. So, chemical imbalances within our physical body happen in our teenage years. And that can be a deterrent to our innate happiness. So let's look at some of the other things. I think we're afraid of being happy in our culture. Some people might say that it interferes with the spiritual path, that being happy in our physical world and be advanced in our spiritual goals is at odds. But there are two tracks that run parallel to each other. And I just have to mention here that the Dalai Lama invited Nelson Mandela for an 80th birthday party of Nelson Mandela. And there is a book of joy that was written on this one occasion, but there was also a movie called Joy. And it's not out widely yet, but it is accessible. And it's just called Joy. So it's very obvious how happiness and the spiritual path is enmeshed in the Dalai Lama. So being happy doesn't interfere with ascension orientation at all. Now, there was a time in my life when one of my horses got injured. And I remember right before this happening, I was really happy. I was really enjoying life. I mean, it was summer, and I blamed myself for her injury because I did leave a tool somewhere that she could get near. And it was almost a conscious decision to put away my happiness, my joy. I was so distressed about what happened to her. And, she was fine. I had to care for her for quite a while. But they told me in this meditation that she was still happy. This particular horse, it wasn't life-threatening for her, and it didn't destroy the happiness in the horse because she was really happy to have a lot of attention from me right at this time. And believe me, it took a lot to help this pony heal. Now, let's look at the life forms around us. The plants behind me, that beautiful crystal on the shelf. The natural forms here on the planet don't strive to reject their birthright. I mean, did you ever meet a depressed tree? I mean, maybe the tree was under stress because of, it was cut down or had parasites or something like that. But the trees, the animals, the plants, they don't try to reject their birthright. They told me life is one great orgy of happiness if we choose to be happy. And we have to choose to be happy. If there were enough people who chose to be happy, hatred and wars would disappear gradually. When more and more people realize that happiness is even possible, it will spread. We can't be happy unless we share happiness with others. Now, let's address death. We see this as the finality. In fact, I did a reading for a man who said his mother said, I'll never be happy again as she was dying. But in my meditation with her, she reassured him that she was very happy, that she was continuing in other reality structures. We're so obsessed with, and this experience is important for all of us, but the death of others doesn't have to make us permanently unhappy when we understand that they are still alive in a different reality. We all interact, we all make music in a species. The lives and deaths and births of people is like a symphony. One birth and one death is it's just a note in this symphony. And it's all a part we play in the majestic patternings of tonal color, light shifting as the creation expands and we participate in this. And so I think that's really a good place to stop today. The next time we're going to talk about how we recover our happiness. And so thank you for coming. And until I see you again, please be well and please be blessed.